I am Edward Fillion, and I'm happy to be here to share a message with you this morning. If you are visiting with us, I'd like to tell you that all of our messages this year come from this beautiful book, Living the Science of Mind. And the reason for that is because this year we are celebrating teaching 100 years of our teaching the science of mind. So this week's topic is Your Invisible Forces, and it begins with this great quote, which I've brought to you. There it is. It has been said that the average person draws on only about 10% of their real capacity. The other 90% is mostly submerged and unused. Oh, well, that is good news. It resembles something the American psychologist William James said in 1908. He said, "We are making use of only a small part of our possible mental and physical resources." Now, I think what they're saying, at least to me, they're saying that there is much, much, much more to us than what meets the eye. We have invisible resources, and here at the Center for Spiritual Living, we are learning how to use those to create a life that works better for us individually as well as for everyone in our world through becoming aware of what those resources are and using them in the correct way. So let's begin by studying together what a resource is. Now, a resource is an available supply, something that you can draw upon when needed. When I read that definition, I thought about a prudent reserve. You know what that is? That's when you set aside money every month so that you've got operating expenses that you can use when things go crazy. Yeah, our center is trying to do that. We want to have at least 6 months operating expenses so we can navigate through difficult times. Every wealth management advisor that I've ever read advises that we do the same in our private lives, in our family lives, that we strive to put aside a little bit of money so that we have got resources for the times in our life when things fluctuate. But we don't always do that, But we're being asked to think of the spiritual universe in the same way. Put something aside, put into the reserve, start making deposits. We do that through prayer work, through our affirmative approach to life. But we don't always think to do that. Actually, I'll tell you a little secret. Oftentimes it is the case that people show up in a spiritual community when things got bump in the night. But they haven't been saving. And so they've got no resources to draw upon, and they arrive empty. Well, it's not bad news because you don't have to have been saving. There's another way around. It just makes things so much easier. Here's something about resources. It's a something that you can use for support or for help. Now, unlike a savings account, which is something you can see, it's visible because you probably had a part in creating it. You were doing the saving. This is a type of support that is invisible. It's kind of there. Sometimes it's among friends, or it's among your family or your community, and sometimes it exists in the form of perfect strangers. I'll give you an example. Last week, along with our Center for Spiritual Living cycling team, we cycled in the AIDS life cycle all the way from Los Angeles, 500 and something miles, to Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, to raise funds for people thriving with HIV and AIDS, to provide services and education. And picture the scene. 2,600 cyclists all going in the same direction. And they managed, among them, to raise in excess of $16 million. And of that amount, your team raised over $40-something thousand through your support and generosity. So there we are, all moving along like ants, going all the way down. And I was riding along, and one of the riders I saw up ahead of me, some important part of her bike fell off. And it was like disintegrating. It was a very unique little piece. And as she pulled over, she had the awareness to say, "I need help." She just said it like that in a calm voice. And all of a sudden, it was like a swarm of insects gathered around her as cyclists pulled over to the side. And do you know that they had that part? Somebody had that part. And I was watching this, and I thought to myself, my goodness, she is being helped. She is being put back together by the hand of people she doesn't know and probably won't see again. Because, with 2,600 people, you may not see the person you're riding with today again. And I thought, we are being asked to think of the spiritual universe like that, to make a demand on the universe, even if we don't know where our help will come from. There's more to this idea of a resource. It's the ability or the means to deal with difficult situations. Well, on one of these days on the ride, it was a particularly long day. I was thinking to myself, I was feeling grumpy. That bicycle seat can get to you. And it can interfere with the way you're thinking. And I'm cycling and I'm not feeling good, and I'm like, I am too old for this nonsense. I'm too tired. And I look and I see the support bus, and I think, I'm going to get on that. That's how I'm going to get to the next city. Ready to give up. Because I was so tired. I was really, really tired. And then just ahead of me, I witnessed an accident where a cyclist went down. Gravel had blown into the street, and the curve was too fast for people to be able to adjust to the changed road conditions, and he went down. And again, a swarm of cyclists around him, including me, and I knew in that instant somebody had to walk back to the curve to tell the cyclist coming, and we all took care of it. And then I realized this rush of adrenaline had poured through my body, and I forgot all of the tiredness and the fatigue, and next thing I finished the 100 miles like a superhero. And I thought about that this morning and said to myself, we are being asked to think of the spiritual universe and the resources in it in the same way. There are invisible powers that come to life in us exactly when we need them, even if we don't know how it works. Oh, it's something to think about, Another beautiful example. On the ride, people stand on the side of the roads, encouraging the cyclists, holding signs up, pictures of loved ones that they've lost to the AIDS epidemic, saying, "Thank you for riding." And one in particular really got to me. There was a young man in Los Angeles. He was standing, and he had a sign. Well, he wasn't standing. He was literally jumping up and down. And he had a sign saying, "Welcome to LA." And he was shouting at the cyclists. He was shouting, "I am alive because of you." Yeah. And I thought to myself, he is giving thanks for an invisible resource that he has no idea how it came to be or through whom. And I thought, we are being asked to think of the spiritual universe in the same way, to give thanks before it comes, even if we don't know the method or the path through which it will come to us. So we've got a plan emerging right here through all these examples, a plan of how to think about our spiritual resources. First of all, create a spiritual savings account. Start making deposits. It's not like you have to, but it sure makes things easier. Second of all, and start practicing making a demand on the universe through affirmative prayer. And if you don't know how to do affirmative prayer, it's okay. Go to our website, www.cslsr.org, and you can submit a request for someone else to partner with you and do an affirmative prayer on your behalf. Or you can go to our online affirmative prayer library and search by topic and practice reading them for yourself. Next, give thanks, even if you don't know where it's going to come from. That's something to practice. And then finally, start expecting a response, even if you don't know how. It will come. I was thinking about these points, and a question emerged in me. So, but why are these resources invisible? I mean, wouldn't it be easier if they were just in a catalog? It was just explained. And I think it's because the universe is so abundant and so full and so rich and so infinite that we can't handle it, not in this form. We have to filter it. And we filter it through what we focus on. A biologist wrote a long time ago, did you know that the earth and everything on it is under constant bombardment of millions and millions of impulses every second? It's an avalanche of raw knowledge that we can't hope to handle. He's talking about a flood of information that is coming down to us in the form of highly energetic rays. And some of those are mysterious, but others we know about, like X-rays and ultraviolet rays and infrared rays and radio and microwave and so on. It's all coming down. Here's the interesting part. Most of this information is not registered by us at all as we go about our lives. We're too busy. We're just busy trying to understand each other. We're too busy trying to just understand how to live in this world, how to make ends meet. We're just too busy trying to understand our relationship to life and what to vote for. So we have to filter a lot of it out to prevent ourselves from going crazy, from being overwhelmed by all of this information. So we've evolved a system of filtering the stuff out that we think we don't need. We limit the infinite. Our senses select only the narrow band of radiation that represents the visible and audible spectrum. It's a very, very narrow range of wavelengths out of all that is available. A tiny little sliver of information, and we call that tiny little bit reality. When in reality, there is always much, much, much more. We're just drawing upon a portion of what is available so we can handle it. And what's even more interesting is then we take what we get and interpret it and place our own meaning on the little bit of information we get. In the meantime, the infinite is pouring down on me. I'll give you an example. Studies at MIT have shown that frogs have, structurally the same eyes that human beings do. So theoretically, they should be able to perceive the same information that we do, but it turns out that they don't. They only get a limited amount of information being passed from their eye in the frog into their brain. From the richness of the world around them, the visual world, frogs get only 3 very basic pieces of information. 1, general outline of the environment, just general, for navigation. 2, information related to the movement of birds of prey, for example, animals of prey, survival. 3, information that can help them identify food. The rest of the world is filtered out, discarded as being of practically no importance, while the infinite is pouring down on the frog. Made me think of a question. What has become so important to me that it is the only thing I look at and think of and focus on? Because I've been known to make decisions about how the world is based on what I insist is real. Okay, it's just me. No, even though I'm looking out at the world through this tiny little opening, maybe I just see what I want to see. Maybe there's more. Maybe the universe is pouring its infiniteness down on me. All right, it's time. It happens about every 2 years. It's time for the red Jeep theory. Yes, here it is. This is what happened to me. I was deciding many, many years ago, I need to buy a new car. And I was talking to a friend in my office about it, and my friend said, well, have you considered a Jeep? A Jeep? I don't even know what a Jeep looks like. He said, luckily for you, there's one parked outside there in the parking lot of the center. So I look out the window, and there is a red Jeep. I went, oh, I like that. I rather like that. And then, don't you know it, overnight, suddenly the entire world is filled up with Jeeps. It's as if the cosmic mind of God, like Facebook, heard what I was interested in, and suddenly started an overnight production of Jeeps. Because everywhere I go now, I see Jeeps. They weren't produced overnight. They were always there. I just wasn't looking at them. I wasn't looking for them. Or I was looking through a particularly narrow focus based on my history and what had gone before. And as a result, my experience of the world was different from the person right next to me. The famous Alfred North Whitehead said this amazing thing. Nature, he said, is a dull affair. Soundless, scentless, colorless. It is we who give the rose its scent and the nightingale its song. What a thing to say. We give life the fragrance that it has. Wow. I thought about that. Well, then, if we don't like the way it smells, maybe there's more, much, much more. Maybe there are different ways to experience it. Maybe it does have to do with what I'm focusing on. And maybe what we've been studying earlier last month, maybe what I focus on does multiply in my experience to the point where it crowds everything else out. I've got to really think about what I'm looking at. There's something to consider this week. There is a lot available to us that we have not yet tapped into. And it has got nothing to do with the size of my brain or where I was born or my gender. No, it has to do with what filter is in place. Like Charles Schulz apparently said, life is like a 10-speed bike. Most of us have gears we never use. Hopefully what I'm sharing with you today will invite you to have a gentler hold on the facts of life. Because, facts may be true. I'm not denying that. I'm just advocating the idea that there may be more available in addition to and even beyond the facts. You know, there are some real facts that people are facing in our county right now, like the job market is tough right now. The housing market is tough right now. Or it may be more personal, like I was experiencing. I'm too tired to handle this right now. I'm not saying we should ignore the facts. I'm thinking about the invitation to think of the spiritual resources of this universe and invisible resources that go beyond the facts, and to think of this idea that the infinite is pouring itself down upon me. And again, I'm going to practice making a demand on the universe through affirmative prayer. I'm going to do that, or I'm going to get help doing that from somebody. I'm going to start practicing giving thanks for the good that I want in my life, even though it hasn't arrived yet and I have no idea where it's coming from. I'm going to practice expecting a response, even if I don't know the mechanics of how that can possibly be. You know, facts, especially when they're real and true, they can be a powerful influence on us. But even facts that are not true can have the same powerful influence of us. Take, for example, the time in the world where the vast majority of people believed that the world was flat. And all of that believing didn't make the world flat. However, the world might as well have been flat for those people who thought that way. They even planned their vacations based on that idea. Don't sail there. To them it was a fact, and yet it wasn't real, it wasn't the truth. I wish we were different today. It does bring up the question, does it? What facts have I bought into about me, and I'm not even sure if they're real or not? What facts about this world am I holding on to? And is there any wiggle room? Have I settled for a too narrow idea? Could the opening through which I look at life be expanded a little bit? Could I be available to the infinite pouring itself down on me? I know that I have to be careful of what I accept as a fact. I've got to. You know, there are many socially accepted ideas that can be taken as fact if I don't stay awake. Ideas that are not real, but they can end up being the lens through which I look at the world. You know, take, for example, if you watch a lot of TV, well, if you watch a little bit of TV, there are images there that are projected as desirable or normal, as factual, of what the average person should look like, or attain, or aspire to, or be like, you know. Perfectly formed white teeth. The ability to jump across buildings without harm. Incredible good fortune. Yet when I look out into the world, I see not many people who are like that. And yet many people compare themselves to that. And I'm thinking, you know, we would do better with a slightly broader definition of what is real, a definition that allows the possibility of greater things, lots of variety, diversity, uniqueness that takes in the idea that the infinite is pouring down on us. I think the good news is that we don't only experience the world through our eyes and our ears, not only through our physical senses. We feel reality. We have a spiritual sense too. We have a sense that there is something greater than we are, something wonderful going on. And we don't need to fully understand every detail of it to be part of it. We are part of it. We don't have to be awake to every piece of information coming our way, but I think what we must be, I think we must be open to an experience of life that is more wonderful, more engaging, more meaningful, more connecting, warmer, beyond anything that has gone before. I think we have to do that to open the aperture. So I invite you to consider this week. By way of saying it to yourself, maybe silently in your mind. I sense the spiritual truth of life around me to be larger and more beautiful than anything I have ever conceived of before. I feel like I am part of a living universe that goes beyond this physical form and my history and my identity. I hear the song of creation and it's calling me into my best expression. And I leave behind any filters and restrictions that have held me in place before. Every moment, I'm tuning in to much, much more and realizing the infinite as it pours itself down on me. I invite you to breathe in with me. Exhale into a moment of prayer as you let your eyes close if that feels comfortable. As we turn our awareness to that one source from which everything comes, that infinite, eternal, all-knowing presence that is the Creator, that forms this creation, and I recognize that I am part of that. I have been made from that. And even in this prayer, I'm expressing it, and this is true for everyone here. And so I am accepting, for all who accept it for themselves too, that there is a power greater than we are, and it is moving through us right now, and it is leading us into a sense of openness, of greater acceptance. And so I am beginning to give thanks right now in advance of whatever good is on its way. I don't know how it will come to pass, but I know that there is a power within me, and it does know. And so I let myself breathe a little more easy. I let myself have a little more confidence in the beauty of this life. I let myself walk forward with a little bit more adventure and openness as I turn the focus of my awareness to possibility, to connection, to warmth, to understanding, and I let this broadening focus of mine be a blessing, not only to my own life, but to all who I encounter. And together we say, and so it is.